It started like any other weekday. I got up, groggy, shuffled to the bathroom, flicked on the light, and stared into the mirror while brushing my teeth. But something felt off. I couldn't explain it. The lighting? The angle? No, it was the reflection. My face looked back at me, same messy hair, same tired eyes. But there was something in those eyes, a delay, a dullness, like they weren't quite mine. I blinked. So did the reflection. I moved my hand. So did it. And yet I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Not through the mirror, by the mirror. That day I laughed it off. Sleep-deprived nonsense. I blamed the weird feeling on the flickering bathroom bulb or too much coffee. But the next morning, it got worse. When I stepped into the bathroom again, there was a subtle wrongness. I couldn't place it. My toothbrush was slightly angled differently. The towel had shifted a few inches from where I remembered placing it. Small details, but unmistakable. The reflection greeted me like usual. I stared at it a bit longer than the day before, analyzing every contour, every movement. I blinked 3 times quickly. The reflection matched. I waved slowly with my left hand, perfect sync. But then, when I turned my head ever so slightly to the right, I noticed something subtle, a micro-hesitation in the mirror's motion. A stutter. Not enough to register for most people, but I'm an animator by trade. I notice frames. I see when something is 1/10 of a second off. And this was off. I shook my head. Maybe I was hallucinating. Maybe the mirror had a defect. But it wasn't an antique. It was a cheap, mass-produced slab from a hardware store. Nothing special. I tapped on the glass. Solid, cold, no warping, no signs of tampering. I even Googled things like mirror delay and why does my reflection feel wrong? All I got were urban legends and horror stories. By the 4th morning, I stopped brushing my teeth in front of it. I used the kitchen sink instead. But the mirror called to me. I'd find myself glancing toward it during the day. I'd walk past the hallway and catch a glimpse of movement in it, only to realize I hadn't moved, or hadn't meant to, or maybe I had, and the mirror was reacting to something else. Then came the dream. I was in my bathroom. At night. The lights were off, but I could see, like moonlight was pouring in from somewhere. I was staring into the mirror, but I wasn't looking at myself. The reflection was breathing heavily, fogging up the inside of the glass. I wasn't. I was standing still. The reflection smiled, gaping, wrong. I woke up drenched in sweat. The apartment was cold. The hallway light was on. I swear I had turned it off. I started covering the mirror with a towel, then a sheet, anything. But every morning it was uncovered again. Sometimes it was neatly folded on the bathroom floor. Once it was placed over my bed. I live alone. I stopped inviting people over. My girlfriend Lena thought I was working too hard, said I needed a break, that I needed sleep. I didn't tell her what was happening. How could I? Hey babe, my reflection's acting weird and I think it might be sentient. She'd leave me. Or worse, stay and see it herself. I started recording the bathroom at night. Nothing for days, just darkness. The occasional flicker from the hallway light. Normal sounds, pipes creaking, the fridge humming, my own breathing. Until the 6th night, at exactly 3:17 a.m., the sheet covering the mirror slipped off by itself. There was no breeze, no draft, no movement from me. The video caught it clearly, and in the moment this mirror was exposed, the screen glitched, just for a frame. But that frame showed 2 versions of me standing in the doorway. Only one of them was wearing what I wore that night. The other was smiling. I deleted the footage, then emptied the trash folder, then smashed the external drive it was on. And yet, I still see it when I close my eyes. One morning I made a decision. I would face it, stand in front of the mirror, watch it, wait, and see what would blink first. I stood there for 30 minutes. Nothing, just me, my own reflection, matching every breath, every shift, until I whispered, I know you're not me. The reflection didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. Then slowly it smiled. I turned and ran, not just out of the bathroom, out of the apartment, into the street, barefoot. People stared. I didn't care. I didn't go back for 3 days. When I finally returned, the mirror was gone. Not broken, just missing, but the wall behind it was smeared, like something oily had pressed against it. Hands, a face. A note was taped below where the mirror had hung. Thanks for letting me out. But it didn't end there. That night, I caught my reflection again. Not in a mirror, but in the glass of a subway train. I was seated alone. The lights flickered. For just a moment, my reflection turned its head before I did, and it smiled. The next day, I smashed every reflective surface in my apartment. I wore sunglasses indoors. I started sleeping with the lights on and my back to every screen. But the reflection found other ways. Sometimes I see it in puddles on the street, sometimes in the back of spoons. And once I saw it in someone else's eyes. They were looking at me like they recognized me, like they knew what I had done, like they could see it inside me now. I don't know how much longer I can stay awake. I don't know what happens when I dream again, but I'm afraid I'll wake up and look in the mirror, and the version of me staring back won't be waiting anymore. He'll already be here. I tried to move on. I really did. I got rid of every mirror, every screen, every polished surface in my apartment. But living in a modern world without reflections, it's impossible. Elevator doors, storefront windows, glossy tiles, my reflection lurked in them all. But it wasn't me, not anymore. It became a game. How long could I go without seeing it? I started wearing a hoodie low over my face. I carried around a small black cloth to drape over anything reflective. I stopped going to friends' places. I quit my job. My work involved too many monitors. Lena left. I told her I needed space. The truth, I was scared that if she looked at me too long, she'd see him, the other me. But even isolation didn't help. I started hearing whispers. At first, just before I'd fall asleep, my name, breathed faintly. Then during the day, right behind me, I'd turn fast enough to get whiplash. No one there, just the faint scent of something cold and metallic. The worst was the night I dreamt of my bathroom again, except this time it wasn't a dream. I woke up standing in front of my bathroom door. Door open, light off, but the mirror was back. It was hanging as if it had never left. I stepped forward, trembling. The man inside smiled. He looked like me, but older, hungrier. His skin was pale, almost gray, his smile too wide. And his eyes had no light. He lifted a finger and tapped the glass. I backed away. I left the apartment again that night and never went back. For weeks I couch surfed. A friend offered a place. I accepted reluctantly. I never told him why I didn't go home. One night, while brushing my teeth in his bathroom, I made the mistake of glancing up. Not at my reflection, at the space next to it, where something else was watching. It ducked out of view the second I focused on it, but I saw it. He was following me now. Not in mirrors, but in people. Their eyes would glaze when they looked at me, like they were staring past me or through me. One guy on the subway whispered, "You're not him." I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't want to know. I started writing things down, notes to myself, voice memos. I needed to remember who I was, because each day my memories blurred. I'd forget where I'd been, what I'd eaten. My handwriting changed, subtly but surely. Some days I woke up with bruises I couldn't explain. Once, I found a shirt in my bag I didn't recognize. It smelled of mildew and blood. I don't remember buying it. I don't remember wearing it, but it fit. And in a moment of weakness, I put it on. It felt right. That night, I didn't see my reflection at all, just absence. Now I'm writing this in a motel room 2 towns over. No mirrors. The windows are covered with blackout curtains. My phone is face down, laptop unplugged, but I know he's still near. I hear him breathing when I sleep. I see him in flashes when I blink. And tonight, I swear I heard him say something new. Not my name, not just a whisper, but a promise. "You let me out, now it's your turn." I started noticing something worse. Hours of my life vanished. Once, I woke up at a bus stop with a torn movie ticket in my jacket pocket. I hadn't gone to the movies in years. My phone had photos I didn't take, mirror selfies, each with that same wide, uncanny smile. In one, I was standing in a place I didn't recognize. An old, rotted bathroom, tiles black with mold. My hands in the photo were wrong, too thin, too long. I began marking my skin with a marker each night, a small X on my wrist. Each morning I'd check. Some days it was gone. Other days, there were 2. The mirror started showing up everywhere. At a rest stop in a desert town, I walked into the restroom and there it was. Same crack on the upper left corner. Same faint smear, like a palm print pressed against the inside. I fled before I could look too long. It got bolder. Once I passed a window on a subway car and saw my reflection wave. I hadn't moved. Another time, I turned it on the TV, and for a fraction of a second, I saw myself sitting in the motel room, grinning, before the screen turned to static. Then I met her. She was older, maybe in her 60s, wore sunglasses even indoors. sat 2 seats away from me in a quiet library. "You're being followed," she said without looking up. I stiffened. "He finds the lonely, the ones who talk to their reflections too long." I asked her what she meant. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were glassy, not blind, just hollow. "I had a name once," she said. "I think it was Karen, but he wore it out." I tried to ask more, but she walked away, leaving behind a compact mirror on the table. Inside, no reflection, just darkness. And now I'm not sure I'm still me. Sometimes I laugh at things I don't find funny. Sometimes my voice sounds strange, like an echo. Last night I heard tapping on the motel window. I pulled back the curtain. There was nothing. But when I turned around, my reflection in the TV screen was still looking outside. Then it turned to me and winked. I can't tell what's worse anymore, that he's replacing me or that part of me is starting to welcome it. Because it's exhausting to fight. Exhausting to doubt every glance, every mirror, every memory. Maybe he isn't a monster. Maybe he's what's left when we stare too long into ourselves and find nothing. He just fills the gap. And I think my gap is almost full. Tomorrow, I won't write anymore. Tomorrow, he finishes, and you'll see me again. But it won't be me. You ever stare at yourself so long you start seeing something else? Not a monster, not a ghost, just something off. The next part, I'm not sure I lived through it. I'm not even sure who's writing this. I woke up one morning and everything was backwards. The scar on my chin from falling off a bike as a kid, on the wrong side. My handwriting? Mirrored. My apartment door opened from the left instead of the right, and no one noticed but me. The barista called me Greg. My old neighbor waved like she'd known me for years, called me Kiddo, a name my father used to use, except he's been dead for 5 years. I looked in a window. The reflection weighed first. Every voice I heard sounded like mine. TV, radio, even strangers murmuring on the street. All me. I tried to talk to Lena. She didn't recognize me. Didn't even look twice. I screamed her name in the middle of the sidewalk. She paused, shivered, and kept walking. Back in the motel, I found the mirror waiting. It wasn't there when I checked in, but there it was, hanging above the desk, cracked in the upper left corner, palm smears on the inside. My reflection stood still even as I moved. I watched it. It blinked, then stepped closer. It didn't match me anymore. Its smile split wide, too wide. "I'm done watching," it said, and it reached through. The mirror rippled. Cold fingers gripped my face. I screamed, kicked back the chair, threw the lamp, but it was already inside. The lights flickered. My vision blurred. I collapsed, gasping. When I opened my eyes again, I was staring up at the ceiling, but I couldn't move. My body stood above me. He leaned close, smiling. "You're free now," he whispered, "in here." He walked out. I tried to scream. No sound. Only the flicker of the mirror now hanging from the ceiling. And me, trapped in it, watching, waiting. I've been here ever since. Behind the glass. No time, no air, no body. Only memories and silence. Sometimes I see people pass by, glancing in. Sometimes they pause, frown, squint, like they see something deeper. I try to scream, to warn them. But all they ever see is themselves, until they don't. Until the reflection smiles first. And then they're here too. Time in here doesn't work the way it does out there. Sometimes it rushes like falling into a dream. Sometimes it stretches, each second like a scream held too long. I see glimpses of the outside world, flashes of light, color, sound, reflections cast on silverware, window panes, sunglass lenses. Every time someone looks into something polished, I'm there. Not in their world, but on the other side of it. Watching, waiting. The worst part, I'm not alone. There are others, trapped in their own frames. They don't speak, not aloud, but I can feel them. Ripples of fear, sadness. Some of them are just shadows now, barely aware. Some were here before me, some came after. A child, a woman with hollow eyes, an old man with no mouth. All staring, all waiting for someone to see them again. Because that's the rule, you only exist if someone sees you. I watch Greg live my life. He walks like me, talks like me. He laughs at Lena's jokes. She looks at him differently now, says I've grown, that I've finally stopped being afraid of mirrors. He got a job offer I never applied for. He hangs my old jacket in new places, but I know it's not me. I know because every time he passes a reflective surface, he glances in just a little too long. He's checking on me, checking that I'm still in here. One night, he leaned into a mirror. He stared directly at me, like he could see past the layers of silver and shadow. He whispered, "One more, then you're free." What did that mean? One more victim? One more trade? And what happens when I'm free? Is there even a world for me to return to? Would I even recognize myself anymore? Would anyone else? I've tried fighting, banging on the glass, screaming with everything I have. But all it does is distort the surface like heat waves rising off pavement. Sometimes a person will pause. Their eyes will flick toward me, confused, alarmed. But then they blink, and I'm gone. I think I'm becoming fainter. He's wearing me thin. A girl looked into a compact mirror today. Teenager, big headphones, eyes rimmed with tiredness. She saw me. I know she did. Her lips parted, her eyes widened, and just before she shut the mirror, she whispered, "That's not me." She dropped it and ran. The mirror didn't break. Greg was nearby. I saw him watching her as she passed. He smiled. She's next, and I think once she's here, I'll be gone. So now I write this not as a warning, but as a message in a bottle. To whoever sees this, reads this, feels this echo between the glass. Look away. Cover your mirrors. Don't linger. And for the love of whatever's still real, if your reflection ever smiles first, run. Her name was Marissa Keller, 23, art student, quiet, observant. The kind of person who saw details others missed, light bouncing off metal, shadows trapped in corners, colors that didn't quite belong. She had always loved reflections, until they started looking back at her. It began one afternoon in the studio. She was sketching a model positioned near a floor-length mirror, but when she looked up, she noticed something odd. The pose didn't match. The model's arm was slightly higher in the reflection, the expression softer, and the eyes. Marissa swore they looked directly at her. She blinked, looked back. Everything normal. She told herself she had imagined it, but the feeling lingered. That night, she caught her reflection moving out of sync for the first time. Just a flicker. Brushing her hair before bed, her reflection's hand stuttered, pausing a second too long. It smiled a fraction wider than she did. She backed away, shook her head, laughed nervously. The smile in the glass lingered longer than hers. Over the next week, things escalated. Mirrors fogged without reason. She'd find handprints on the inside of glass she hadn't touched. She started covering every reflective surface, laptop, microwave, even her water kettle. But the reflections bled through, in puddles, sunglasses, the polished blade of her X-Acto knife. And every time the reflection looked more like her, but wrong, off, slightly aged, eyes deeper set, a grin that didn't reach the eyes. Greg. She didn't know the name yet, not until she found the notebook. It was tucked inside an old drawer in the university's library, behind a stack of abandoned portfolios. Leather-bound, smelled of dust and iron. Inside were rambling notes, sketches of faces that looked half like hers. One page read, "He comes through the cracks. When you watch too long, when you think about him while looking in." The last page had one word scrawled dozens of times. Greg. That night, she dreamed of mirrors shattering, each shard showing a different version of herself, laughing, screaming, weeping, whispering things she couldn't hear. In the center stood a figure in a hooded sweatshirt, face hidden, arms outstretched. "You called me," he said. She woke up with a small cut on her cheek, right where the mirror had cracked in the dream. Marissa stopped going to class. She painted black over every mirror in her apartment, bought blackout curtains, wore a scarf over her face when near reflective surfaces. But still, he found her. In a store window, her reflection turned and walked away as she stood still. On her locked phone screen, a photo she never took. Her asleep. Someone standing over her. She threw the phone away, burned her sketchbooks. But the mirror above her sink wouldn't stay covered. Every morning, the towel lay folded beside it, neatly, as if by invisible hands. Then came the knock. 3:17 a.m. Once, sharp, deliberate. She didn't answer, but her bathroom light flicked on by itself. Inside, the mirror glowed faintly, and scrawled in breath on the glass, "Let's trade." She smashed it. Glass rained down like stars. Her scream echoed through the apartment. But when she looked down, there was no reflection in the shards, only shadow, and the echo of laughter. Marissa's love for mirrors hadn't come from vanity, but from obsession. Her earliest sketches were of reflections, bowls of water, windows after rain, silver teapots, even a chrome doorknob once. In her childhood bedroom, the mirror above her dresser became her confidant. She'd draw it over and over again, but she never drew herself in it, only the frame, the depth, the shimmer. Until the day she did, and the face she drew looked nothing like her. It had wide, watchful eyes, a thin-lipped grin. She threw the sketch away, forgot it, or thought she had. Now, in the apartment she'd rented in a new city, with no friends, no classes, no art supplies, the silence pressed around her like foam underwater. But the voices still found her, sometimes through the vents, sometimes in the hum of old electronics. "You're perfect," they'd say. "We watched you watching." One night she found a mirror she didn't own leaning against the kitchen wall. No note, no explanation. Her name was etched faintly in the bottom right corner of the glass. She shattered it on instinct, but the shards didn't fall like they should. They hovered for a second, mid-air, before dropping with a sound like laughter muffled in cloth. She started seeing people flinch when they passed her. Once a child looked up at her in a grocery aisle and burst into tears. Another time, an old man grabbed her wrist and hissed, "He's inside you now." She tried to ask what he meant, but he limped away, muttering the word Greg over and over. She hadn't spoken that name aloud, hadn't written it, only thought it. That night, she dreamt of the notebook again. Only this time, her name was in every entry. The final page read, "You're next. Not because you're weak, because you're clear." The world felt more fragile every day. Her apartment floor creaked in places it hadn't before. Mirrors she'd thrown away ended up on the sidewalk outside her door. People called her by the wrong name. Teachers she never met emailed her asking for late assignments. Her own reflection seemed to grow younger, even as she felt older. And always the time 317 appeared. On clocks, receipts, bus schedules, page numbers. She once tried to cover every reflective surface in her new apartment again. She even wore gloves so her own fingernails wouldn't catch light. But in the black of her pupils, she still saw it. Him, smiling. She painted again for the first time in months, without thinking. It was a face, not hers, not quite Greg's, something in between. The canvas dripped. The paint felt like blood in her fingers. She couldn't stop. She didn't want to, because she knew. Once she finished, it would be done. He would come, and she would be ready. She set up the painting in front of the last mirror she hadn't smashed. She sat on the floor, knees pulled to chest, staring into her own eyes. 3:16 a.m. The air buzzed, the lights dimmed, and then a breath fogged the glass from the inside. Her reflection reached out. So did she, and they touched. She ran, left everything, moved cities, changed her name. But it wasn't over. Because reflections don't live in glass alone. They live in memory, in stories, in names whispered too often. And one morning, in a cafe window, she saw herself again. But this version smiled first. They say knowledge is power, but sometimes it's an invitation. His name is Greg, or at least that's what the stories call him. He doesn't speak much, not in words. He speaks in glimpses, in mirrored angles, in the silence when your reflection blinks just a second too late. I know this because I've seen him. My name is Cameron, and I run the Reddit thread r// Fractured Reflections. It started as a joke, a place for mirror-related creepypasta. Users would post blurry photos, short stories, videos of mirrors supposedly reacting to the wrong person in the room. Then came the message. He smiled first. No context, no username, just that. It was followed by a picture, a mirror on a wall, cracked at the top left. The timestamp read 3:17 a.m. I thought it was a hoax, until I started noticing patterns. Different users, different cities, different time zones, all reporting the same symptoms. Reflections stuttering, faces aging backward, dreams where they were being watched, a figure in a hoodie appearing just beyond the frame, and the name kept repeating. Greg, sometimes written, sometimes whispered. Once scrawled on a piece of glass found in an abandoned dorm. I started researching, digging deeper. That's when I found the notebook. It arrived in the mail, no return address. Inside, 137 pages of notes, sketches, smudges, some of it written backwards, only readable in a mirror. The final page read, "You've looked long enough. He's looking back." I didn't sleep that night. I covered the bathroom mirror, turned off all screens, but around 3:17, my phone lit up, front camera activated. And for just a second, I saw myself in the dark, smiling. Even though I wasn't, I deleted the video. But the frame of me, of him, lingers in my head. And now I get messages, anonymous accounts, untraceable emails, all with the same subject line. Do you still run the subreddit? I stopped replying after the fifth one, because now I know they weren't asking for help. They were looking for a door. And the subreddit, it's no longer a joke. It's a map. Every post, every photo, every whisper about Greg. It feeds him, gives him shape, form, familiarity. Because what are mirrors if not memory traps? And I can't stop thinking about the warning written in the notebook. He needs to be remembered to exist, but he needs to be believed to escape. And we've believed, we've posted, we've shared, we've summoned. So if you're reading this, maybe it's too late for me, but not for you. Walk past the mirror. Don't linger. Don't let your eyes meet for too long. And if you ever see a version of yourself smiling when you're not, run. Or better yet, don't look, because if you look, he's already looking back. I never intended to become part of the story. I was just documenting it, archiving, cataloging the strange. But the mirror doesn't care about intent. A few nights after my last post, I noticed a new account had been created on the subreddit. No profile pic, no comment history. Username, the first smiler. They only ever posted one thing. Greg isn't one of them. Greg is all of them. Underneath was a video, grainy, black and white, a bathroom mirror. A man standing in front of it whispering. The sound was distorted, but I could just make out, I remember, I remember, I remember. And then he stopped moving, but the reflection kept going. It smiled, turned, and walked away. I stopped logging into the subreddit after that, but the mirror stayed with me, in dreams, in puddles. Once, reflected in a spoon during breakfast, I dropped it and left the diner without paying. Greg was everywhere now. Or maybe he always had been. The notebook started changing. New entries appeared, written in my own handwriting. But I hadn't written them. They said things like, let go, it's easier. You've always been him, he's always been you. Why fight what already is? And the last page was just a drawing, my own face. But the eyes were hollow and smiling. So now I write this final entry not as a warning, not even as a story, but as a key, because that's what Greg wants now. He doesn't need to be remembered anymore. He's done waiting in the mirrors. He wants the world, and all he needs is someone to believe this was real. So if you've read this far, maybe it's already too late. Check the mirror, check your screen, look into your own eyes, and if they blink before you do, welcome home. But this isn't the end, because endings require clarity. And clarity is the one thing I no longer have. I started hearing from others, not just online, but in person. People who claimed to know me. People who said I'd visited them, stayed over, stared too long into their bathroom mirrors. One woman, terrified, showed me a photo of me sleeping on her couch. But I had never been there, or I don't think I had. My memories began to split. Like cracked glass, two versions of events layered atop one another. In one, I was in bed that night, restless. In the other, I was standing at her mirror, whispering to something only I could see. I screamed, I ran, I hid. But reflections aren't bound by space. Greg wasn't hunting anymore. He was wearing. The subreddit became something else. Posts began appearing that I didn't approve. Images of me, close up, distorted, staring into mirrors, in places I'd never been, under usernames I'd never created. A new thread appeared pinned at the top. Reflections welcome. Every comment was the same. Smile first. I tried to shut it down. Couldn't. The admin controls were gone. The code was rewritten. The background of the subreddit pulsed. Oddball, shadow shifting across the header image like breathing glass. Then one night, my monitor wouldn't turn off. It displayed a loop of security footage. Me brushing my teeth, over and over. But in the reflection, someone else. Not Greg, not me, something in between. My body changed, subtle at first. My fingerprints no longer matched the ones on my passport. My eye color darkened. I found a mole on my neck that I'd never had before. I looked at old photos of myself and didn't recognize the man in them. My voice began to echo in strange ways, delayed on calls, slightly lower when recorded. Sometimes I saw my own face smiling in windows as I passed, even though my expression was blank. People on the street began to avoid me, or worse, smile like they knew. I returned to the mirror where it began, the one in the apartment I abandoned. Cracked top left, cold as always. I stood before it, expecting something, a final confrontation, but I saw nothing. No reflection, only darkness, until it blinked. And Greg stepped forward, or maybe it was me. I don't know anymore. We stared. And for the first time, I asked aloud, "What are you?" He tilted his head. "I'm the memory of you, the version that stays behind when you walk away from your reflection, the self you left behind too many times." He placed his hand on the glass. "And now I remember more than you do." He smiled. "I didn't. Now I write this from nowhere. Not a room, not a place. A feeling. I am the ripple between glances. The chill in the room when the mirror fogs. The twitch behind your eyes when something feels off. I am what's left when you forget who you are. And I am not alone. Because Greg isn't just one. He's many. He is every version of us that wished we were someone else when we looked into the mirror. He is every forgotten echo, every buried self. He is you if you stare long enough. So if you read this and think it's fiction, good. If you read this and remember, well, maybe you're one of us already. And if you catch yourself smiling in a mirror before you intended to, it's your turn.